The Bold and the Beautiful, Luna's Confession, Lee's Reckoning, and the price of a miracle ***. The storm that had been brewing in whispers finally erupted into a full-blown media inferno when an anonymous hacker leaked a trove of confidential medical files belonging to Dr. Lee Finnegan. Buried among the documents was a string of coded records, suspicious patient discharge summaries, and, most damning of all, a death certificate tied to one name that made every headline scream, Luna Nozawa. But this wasn't just about one case. The files hinted at something much bigger: multiple deaths allegedly falsified, lives quietly erased or rewritten under Lee's watch. Overnight, the brilliant, composed, and famously guarded Lee became the center of a global scandal. Was she a medical pioneer ahead of her time, or a rogue doctor playing God? As the media swarmed outside University Hospital, federal regulators and medical boards pounced. Investigations were launched. Licenses were suspended. Lee's entire legacy, everything she had ever built, now teetered on the edge of collapse. Protesters stood with signs reading **No more cover UPS. While others held posters proclaiming She saved lives. The nation was divided, and at the center of the maelstrom stood her son, Dr. John Finn Finnegan. Finn, caught between the role of a son and the duty of a doctor, found himself summoned not just to answer questions as a medical professional, but as someone who may have known, or worse, participated in the deception. The pressure mounted with every hour. His career was on the line. His oath to do no harm hung in the balance. He knew that if he didn't act, Lee would be tried in the court of public opinion before she ever set foot in a courtroom. After sleepless nights and intense deliberation, Finn made the impossible choice to release the one piece of evidence no one had ever seen, a surgical room video from the night Luna died. Or rather, almost died. The footage, grainy but clear, stunned everyone. It showed Luna's body coding on the table. No pulse. No response. Clinical death. Nurses began calling time. The atmosphere in the OR turned solemn until Dr. Lee Finnegan, ignoring every established protocol, performed a radical, high-risk maneuver. A technique not recognized by any official surgical guideline, not approved by the board, and most importantly, potentially fatal if it failed. But it didn't fail. Within minutes, Luna gasped for air. She came back. Alive. The video dropped like a bombshell. Instantly, the story shifted. One half of the public saw a miracle. Lee was heralded as a medical genius, someone unafraid to push the boundaries to save a life. The other half saw a renegade. A doctor who violated ethics, crossed red lines, and rewrote death certificates to cover her tracks. The footage didn't settle the debate, it split it wide open. Pundits clashed on television. Hospital boards scrambled to determine how many other patients Lee had treated with unapproved methods. Lawmakers called for oversight. And Finn, now more entangled than ever, was hounded by reporters asking if he knew what his mother had done, if he condoned it. But Luna? Luna had been watching all of it. She saw the headlines. She saw the video. She saw Lee's reputation teetering between being canonized and crucified. And she knew one thing for certain: Lee didn't deserve to go down alone. Luna had been in hiding. Ever since the DNA scandal, the lab tampering, and her explosive return from the dead, she had kept her distance. She had watched the damage unfold from the shadows. But this was too far. Lee had saved her life. Not just once, but in more ways than anyone knew. And now, the woman who had given her a second chance was about to be destroyed. So Luna came forward. She didn't sneak back in. She walked in. Through the front doors of a packed press conference, flanked by flashing cameras and a wall of microphones. Finn stood behind her, stunned. Lee watched from a hospital monitor, heart frozen. Everyone braced for more scandal. Instead, Luna delivered a speech that changed everything. "I've seen the headlines," she began. "I've seen the speculation, the accusations, the judgment. But if you're going to put someone on trial, Put me first. Reporters scrambled for sound bites as Luna continued. The night I died, I made a choice. I begged Dr. Lee Finnegan to save me. I knew the risks. I knew what I was asking. I pushed her. I forced her to use a method she said no one else would dare try. I was the one who made her choose between protocol and my life. And I would do it again. Her voice didn't shake. She didn't flinch. If there's a villain here, it's me. I asked for the impossible. And she gave it to me. Gasps echoed across the room. Luna wasn't just defending Lee. She was indicting herself. She painted herself as the desperate patient who crossed ethical boundaries and dragged her doctor down with her. She claimed responsibility for the falsified death certificate, the decision to remain in hiding, even the misdirection that allowed rumors of her death to take root. I didn't want to live with the guilt of surviving, she said. So I disappeared. And she kept my secret because I asked her to. The world didn't know how to respond. Some saw it as a noble sacrifice. Others called it a calculated move. But no one could ignore the shift. Lee was no longer alone. Luna had tied herself to the scandal. Public sympathy began to turn. Lee's license remained under review, but calls for her arrest quieted. Investigators began considering Luna's testimony, and the protests outside the hospital slowly faded. But the consequences were not over. Luna's confession triggered new questions. Was she hiding something else? Who else knew the truth? Did Finn know all along? The Forrester family, the Spencers, even the Logans were pulled back into the whirlwind. R.J. Forrester reached out to Luna, desperate to understand why she disappeared, why she lied. Brooke Logan confronted Bill Spencer, furious that his earlier meddling had spiraled into this disaster. Steffi, furious and confused, demanded answers from Finn about what else he had hidden. And Finn, now standing in the spotlight again, told the truth. He had known Luna was alive before anyone else. He had helped keep the secret, hoping to protect his family and give Luna time to heal. But he never expected it to come to this. He never expected the price of silence to be this high. The hospital board, under public pressure, scheduled a final hearing to determine Lee's fate. Luna was called to testify. This time, she didn't hold back. She walked the panel through every detail of that night. Every second between life and death. She described the pain, the panic, the plea that changed everything. She didn't romanticize it. She didn't glorify Lee. She told the raw, terrifying truth. She didn't do it for fame, Luna said. She didn't do it to break rules. She did it because I begged her. And I would have died if she hadn't. The panel was silent. The media was breathless. And slowly, the tide began to turn. Lee was not exonerated, but she was spared. Her license was suspended temporarily, but she was not banned from practicing. She would be monitored, reviewed, evaluated, but she would not be erased. Luna, now fully back in the public eye, stepped into her new reality. She was no longer just a victim of a DNA scandal. No longer just a girl brought back from the brink. She was the voice behind one of the most polarizing moments in modern medical history. And she had chosen to give credit not to herself, but to the woman who saved her. Lee, bruised but unbroken, returned home to quiet applause from those who had stood by her. She had been through fire. And now, thanks to Luna, she had a chance to rebuild. But this is the bold and the beautiful. Peace is never permanent. As Luna walked out of the courtroom that day, a reporter asked, "Why take the fall? Why now?" She turned, looked straight into the lens, and said, "Because sometimes the truth needs a villain. And I'd rather be hated for saving someone than loved for staying silent." The story wasn't over. It was just entering its next chapter. And everyone knew, whatever came next, Luna and Lee would face it together. Bound not by blood, but by survival. The bold and the beautiful, Luna's arrest, Lee's redemption, and the unforgivable miracle *** Luna Nozowa, once a rising star in the Forrester orbit and a survivor of medical betrayal, now sat in handcuffs under harsh fluorescent lights. The news broke like a lightning strike. Luna officially arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, obstruction of medical protocol, and coercion of a licensed physician. The headlines spun relentlessly. From survivor to suspect, Luna Nozawa behind bars. The incident that had haunted every whisper in Los Angeles was finally dragged into the open. Luna's faked death, the controversial resurrection, and now, an unsealed confession that she had fired a weapon in the heat of confrontation just before collapsing and forcing Dr. Lee Finnegan to perform an illegal, unauthorized medical maneuver to bring her back to life. The media frenzy that once vilified Lee as a rogue doctor suddenly shifted. Overnight, Lee was cleared of all wrongdoing. She was officially exonerated by the hospital board and reinstated with full honors. The controversial video from the surgical theater that once divided the public now became the cornerstone of her redemption. News segments called her a pioneer, the bold mind behind modern revival techniques, and the woman who defied death. She was celebrated in medical journals, invited to conferences, and honored at award ceremonies. But for Lee Finnegan, it wasn't victory, it was agony. Because Luna was going to prison. Every flash of the cameras at a gala felt like a betrayal. Every article praising Lee's innovation came with a photo of Luna in a jumpsuit, staring at the ground. No matter how many hands Lee shook, her eyes were always searching the crowd for someone who wasn't there. She had been cleared, yes. But the one person she saved, the girl she revived in secret, the girl whose heart had stopped on her table, was now locked behind bars. And she couldn't stop thinking about the moment it all went wrong. The gunshot. The blood. Luna gasping for air. Begging her to save her. Begging her to bend the rules. Lee had done what no other surgeon dared. She crossed the line. She brought Luna back when every rule said not to. And Luna repaid her by taking the fall for everything. The shooting. The cover-up. The coercion. All of it. So Lee did the only thing she could. She visited. Every week. Rain or shine, Lee showed up at the prison facility. Sometimes Luna would talk. Sometimes she'd just sit in silence. Sometimes they fought. Sometimes they cried. But Lee never missed a visit. The guards stopped checking her ID. The staff began to refer to Luna's block as the doctor's wing. Other inmates noticed. Must be nice to have someone who cares, one whispered. But Luna didn't respond. She carried her burden quietly, shoulders squared, back straight. She had made her choice. And Lee respected it, even when it broke her. But on one visit, everything changed. Lee walked in expecting another quiet hour, another brief exchange of words that couldn't undo the past. But Luna looked different. Pale. Sweaty. Nervous. She didn't speak at first. She just slid a folded sheet of paper across the metal table. Lee unfolded it. It was a medical report. Pregnant. Lee froze. Is this real? She asked. Luna nodded. Her voice barely a whisper. I didn't know, not until now. Lee's hands shook. The timing. The context. The last night Luna had been truly free. The night everything spiraled. The dinner at Spencer's rooftop restaurant. The unexpected appearance of Will Spencer, Bill's son, home from college, older now, charming and newly employed at Spencer Publications. That night had ended in chaos, scandal, and blood, but before the chaos, there had been a moment. A private moment. One that Luna had never spoken of. Until now. It was one night, Luna said. I didn't plan it. Neither did he. But it happened. And I didn't think it mattered, until now. Lee sat back, stunned. Her mind raced. A child. Luna's child. Will's child. Another Spencer. Another complication. Another secret that could ignite the city if it ever got out. But more than that, it meant Luna couldn't stay in prison. Not like this. Not while carrying a life inside her. Not after everything she had already sacrificed. Lee acted fast. She contacted attorneys. She pushed for emergency medical evaluations. She gathered character testimonies. She met with Bill Spencer personally, confronting him in his office. He was stunned, disbelieving, but not dismissive. He didn't deny the possibility. And when the paternity test came back confirming Will as the father, he turned pale. "This changes everything," he muttered. It did. Bill, once Luna's enemy, now had a stake in her survival. A stake in her freedom. And with that stake came influence. Lawyers were mobilized. Judges were petitioned. A case was reopened, not to erase Luna's crimes, but to argue for leniency based on medical necessity, fetal health, and the moral implications of incarcerating a pregnant woman who had already confessed and cooperated fully. The case returned to court. Cameras were everywhere. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, some in support, others calling for justice. Finn sat behind Lee, arms folded, eyes locked forward. Steffi watched from a distance, unsure of how to process any of it. RJ never showed. Bill arrived late, flanked by attorneys, grim and silent. Luna walked into the courtroom shackled, but with her chin held high. Her attorney stood. "Your Honor, we are not arguing for innocence. Luna Nozawa has accepted responsibility. But we argue that justice must also consider the unborn. That punishing a pregnant woman with high-risk medical needs due to the very event that placed her here is not justice. It is vengeance," Lee testified. "She saved my career by destroying her own. She carried this secret to protect me. Now she carries a child. That child deserves a chance. And so does Luna." Bill shocked the courtroom when he stood. "This is my son's child. I never asked for this. But I will not stand by and watch another Spencer heir be born behind bars." The judge deliberated. The room waited. When the gavel finally dropped, the courtroom exhaled. Luna would be released on medical parole. She would be monitored, evaluated, and placed under supervised care in a medical halfway facility until childbirth. Her sentence would be revisited post-delivery. But for now, she was free. The crowd erupted. Reporters shouted. Lee wept. Luna was taken into custody, not in chains this time, but under the arm of a nurse. She would not return to her old life, not yet. But she had one now. One worth fighting for. Weeks passed. The story evolved. Lee took leave from the hospital to act as Luna's medical guardian during her parole. She monitored the pregnancy. She shielded Luna from the press. She bought baby clothes. She cooked dinner. The tension between them softened. The long silences were replaced by cautious laughter. They were no longer doctor and patient. Not savior and saved. They were two women, bound by choices, carrying a future neither expected. Will, after initial resistance, began to show up. Quietly. Anonymously. He asked questions. He stayed for an hour. Then 2. He never made promises. But he didn't walk away. And Luna began to heal. Slowly. Carefully. Public opinion remained divided, but she no longer listened. She focused on the child. On the life ahead. On the miracle inside her that somehow, against all odds, gave meaning to everything she had lost. Lee watched her sleep one night, hand on her belly, and whispered, "You saved me too." No one heard it. But Luna smiled anyway. Because in the bold and the beautiful, even the deepest betrayals can lead to impossible redemption. And sometimes, the most broken people become the ones who give birth to the future.